Can you hear me now? Is that too loud? Oh, we've got jokes. You
Hola.
want me to start telling jokes?
Hola, ¿cómo están todos? ¿Están todos bien? Too loud.
Too loud?
No, that's okay now. That's okay because
We'll talk softly.
Huh?
We'll talk softly.
Yeah.
Oh, sit here. This is the president's seat? Yeah, okay.
Of course.
I didn't realize we had an audience this time. Oh, it's great. Questions.
These are the questions, not the answers.
I'm just making up the answers as I go along.
I make up questions.
Hello. Whoa.
No, you can push it.
Yeah, it doesn't really fit very well. It's plastic. It's all made in China.
Yeah.
Is this the vodka I requested?
Huh?
I don't drink them. Non-alcoholic water. That's what
Yes. Okay.
I don't drink. No alcohol. No alcohol. How many people in this room can say no alcohol? You don't drink. Don't drink. Oh, good for you. All right, we're in the same club. We're in the same club then. Good for you.
I usually don't drink if there is nothing to drink.
Right. But if there's something to drink, you're hitting it.
So we have a few minutes. We'll give some minutes for people to come in.
I feel like we're in high school and nobody wants to sit in the front row.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. You always sat in class. You were right in the front row in class, right? Not in school. I didn't realize I was this popular. I didn't even have an audience my first show. Was that pre-pandemic? When did we do the last interview?
The last one?
2019?
No, the first one was 2020, I believe.
So just about the start of, yeah.
Yes.
Somewhere in there.
That's what motivated the.
We didn't have to wear masks, so it must have just been starting.
No, I think the first ones were already with masks because
really?
the idea was
Okay.
to basically allow people to meet each other. I mean, there was no other option.
Just to get to
know.
And
there were no audiences.
Correct. No audience.
Okay. It's 9 o'clock. Oh no, 2 o'clock.
It depends where you are.
It's 9 o'clock somewhere.
It's 9 o'clock somewhere.
Okay.
Yes.
So welcome everybody. It's another fun session of the Council Connections. This is a project that started at the time of COVID. And the first ones, which was just mentioning, there was no audience. There was just the two people here with masks and the camera. So we came a long way. As a matter of fact, one of the interviews was with Rob Dunn a few years ago. It was so successful that we decided to do it again because people don't want to miss it. So first of all, let me, most of you probably know Rob Dunn is a director of environmental services here. And I'm not going to spend much time introducing you because you are going to tell us what's your background and why are you here?
Why am I here? That's a very deep, profound question. I don't know if we have enough time because Tom would ask you the same question. Why am I here? As you know, I am Robert Dunn, Director of Environmental Services. I have been working in environmental services for about 34 years now. It's a long time. I started about when I was 19, so you guys can do the math. I'm not telling you how old I am. I started out as a housekeeper in a nursing home, and that's how that was kind of how I grew, and I worked my way through the ranks. I did every position possible. So I'm quite familiar with the work that my housekeepers have to do. So whether they have troubleshooting or whatever the issue is, I can relate to that because I've worked in a laundry, I've worked as a housekeeper, I've worked as a floor care person. So I've done pretty much every position that I have within my own department at some point in my lifetime. Um, and I come from a nursing home. Some of you may be familiar with Ferncliff Nursing Home. That's where I spent 22 years, which is in Rhinebeck, New York. That's a Ferncliff Nursing Home is where I started. It was at the time a 328 bed facility where it was just strictly nursing care. Um, Very big facility, very old facility. Um, it's tough to keep an old building clean. It's a challenge here to keep a new building clean. And this is, we're starting to get 15 years now at this point, and it gets harder every day. But that's kind of my background. Within, I'd say, about 7 years, I became the department supervisor, and it just kind of worked my way up from there. All right. I started here at Woodland Pond back in 2013. So I'm working on my 11th year here at Woodland Pond. Most of you do know Carrie Burns, who is the supervisor of the housekeeping department. She's been here pretty much from the beginning. So we're both very familiar with the building. So we've been here quite some time.
So tell us a little bit about what is the scope of the department responsibilities? What are the things that the department does? How much staff you have?
Right. So overall size department wise, we have about 31 to 32 housekeepers in our department. And that includes, we cover for the independent living staff for our housekeeping schedule that for you guys. That also includes the health center staff. It includes laundry staff. I have a central supply staff. We buy all the central supply. We're in charge of buying all that stuff and supplying all the medical stuff for the skilled nursing unit. We do supply some things like linen and other things for garden view and assisted living as well. So it's a lot of main supplies. That is the central supply function. And we're responsible for keeping this place clean as possible from top to bottom. And when I mean clean, it also means disinfecting. Everyone, has a different version of, cleanliness, within your own department, but there's cleaning and disinfecting. So as long as everyone understands that those are two completely different things, sometimes that gets a little bit lost. But we take the same procedures that we're required to follow that the Department of Health gives us in the health center. We apply that to the cleanings in IL as well. So there's no contradiction. So we're following the same guidance through the Department of Health, who follows the CDC and all those other agencies to, the recommendations that we should be following when it comes to cleaning.
So you say you have been here for about 11 years.
11 years, yep.
How does your responsibilities, change over the years? How the scope of work in
the scope of work is a lot more now. You have to focus a lot more on the details because of the aging of the building. When you have this amount of population, it's, you're dealing with more detailed daily cleaning that needs to happen to keep the place looking as fresh as we can possibly make it. We understand, renovations are coming, and we're going to do our best to keep the place cleaner as they kind of make a mess to make it bigger and better. So that's kind of.
Don't look at me.
Yeah. No, I'm not blaming you. But I don't see a lid on that coffee you're carrying around, so I'll blame you. So when I see the next coffee stain in a carpet, I know who to go to. But yes, our scope is like basically independent living is already growing with the cottages, and it's going to continue to grow. So our, daily cleaning and all that stuff, we're going to have to enlarge our schedule and, maybe add some staff down the road to accommodate all this stuff. And as we have more foot traffic, we're going to have to.
And I understand that there is no additional staff because of the 6 new cottages, correct?
Correct. Yes, we were able to fit that into our current schedule with the staff that we currently have. So, that seems to work really well for us right now. But at some point as we get bigger, we'll probably have to look into that and expanding.
So what's the hardest part of your job?
besides the people without the coffee lids.
Yeah.
Um, the hardest part, I think that everyone has their own perspective and what they want. Not everyone wants the same thing. And I feel like it's very similar to like what Tom faces. What temperature do we want this room? You know what I mean? So sometimes we find that every environment's different. Your apartment's different from the next and how much stuff everybody has. Um, and we adapt to that, I think, fairly well. Hopefully, meeting your expectations. If we're not meeting your expectations, I expect a phone call as well. But I don't mind the phone calls where we are meeting your expectations, and I like the phone calls too. That hey, this person did such a great job today, and fill out those applause for that staff. I mean, the good and the bad. There are days where, I'll admit we're certainly not perfect every day. And whatever we can do to look to improve that, that's what I'm looking for, is the communication from you guys and the feedback from you guys.
So what's the easiest part of your job?
I've always enjoyed working in the retirement community. I love the stories. I love the people. When I go home at the end of the day, like am I just as happy? Did I do a good a job today as I did yesterday? And if I feel like I didn't, then I kind of let myself down. I'm just looking to say, hey, did I do better today than I did yesterday? Then that's all I can really do. Um, and like I said, meeting your expectations and what you expect of me and whatever I can do to make the environment better. Like I said, I know I'm not perfect. I'll be the first one to admit it, maybe the second behind Tom. He'll admit it quicker than I will. Um, but, my goal is to, at the end of the day, if I can walk out of here with a smile and you guys are happy with, your environment and whatever, like, then I've, like, I've met the mission that we've set forth for our standards.
So when we look at that, I mean, you have a lot of people here, residents with all kinds of experiences and skills and so on. What are the things that you feel the residents can do to make your job easier?
I don't know about my job. You mean like the
Oh,
housekeeper's job? I'd say the
yeah.
housekeeper's job. I feel like that's a more of a direct impact, and thinking about putting yourself in that perspective is, I try and teach this to the housekeepers. If you're walking into somebody's apartment, how would you want that to leave if you were going to stay there for the night? You know what I mean? Is it clean enough where you're happy with the cleaning job that you've done in that day, that, you know what, I'm going to stay here tonight and I'm comfortable with that. And I want that, my staff, to think of those things. And as I would flip the reverse on you, thinking about, okay, if I had to clean my apartment today, you know what I mean? Like, you have to think about that. So yeah, and it's cleaning that environment to a certain standard, and I get it. Everyone has different standards, and that can change from apartment to apartment. But think about what they need to do, and that's why we ask in the summertime, make sure your AC is on. We try and put yourself in their shoes once in a while, and just think about what they need to accomplish when they're in there, what you can do to make it easier for them. When it's 90 degrees out and you guys have not turned on the AC and you got all your windows open, I understand, and you're comfortable in that environment. But just try and think about if you had to work and clean in that environment for about an hour or an hour and a half, depending on the size of your apartment, or whatever the situation is. Everybody's different, everyone's body's different, and we understand that. We just want the working environment for the staff as comfortable as possible.
Now, I don't know if you know, but Rob is one of the people in management that is a very active member of the sustainability committee, because the sustainability committee is a joint committee, residents and staff. So one of the projects that has been ongoing recently is to put new signs in
the garbage rooms. Yep.
Trash rooms, garbage room, disposal rooms,
tomato,
whatever.
tomato.
You use whatever terminology you want, but this is the same rooms. And the signs are, I think, one of the first phase of this project was to put signs just on the south segment,
south wing garbage,
the south wing.
Yep.
So can you tell us how is that going? Did you notice any difference, any improvements?
I haven't noticed any difference specifically on the back end where we deal with things when we throw things out or cross contamination. The porters do notice certain items wind up in the garbage rooms or in certain containers um, that don't belong there. You guys will point out, say, hey, I see, glass or something being put in the wrong place or whatnot. You guys will do that. You don't rat each other out. You won't say, hey, like this is a certain person doing it. I know they're doing it, but I'm not going to say who it is. You let me do the homework, which is fine. I get it. Go ahead.
Trina,
I'll repeat the question. It's okay.
questions. Just remember the question. That we'll go to the questions. Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'll come back to that, but I'll repeat the question for the, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, another area that you have been quite involved with the Sustainability Committee is the composting, the issue of composting. And can you just give us?
Yeah, we started composting here, I think in 2017. So we go back quite a few years. So we've been doing it a long time now. And we've seen a lot of improvements in composting. We generated a lot in the first few years because of waste, and I think we've made some evolutionary changes, even through COVID and whatnot with the reservation system, people wasting less, people becoming more conscious of what they're eating and how much they're ordering or taking in and taking out. So we've seen that, 86 to 94,000 pounds of food waste a year trickle down to about 30. So, it's great that you're still composting and we'll look in the future for, maybe better solutions for us, when it comes to composting as the technology becomes available. But I think we've made great strides in not putting that stuff, into the waste stream and whatever we can do to help that. So I feel like we've made great strides there.
Now, we had some questions that whether the cleaning products that are used, are there alternatives that we could use that are less smelly, less damaging to the environment? I know that you probably keep an eye on that.
Yes.
Can you just tell us where we are about that? What can be done? What cannot be done?
Yeah, actually, I actually sent Carrie and my essential supply staff went to a trade show today. And yes, there are alternatives out there for disinfecting and whatnot. I need to make sure that, when we're dealing with issues when it comes to COVID, stomach viruses, the flu, all the things that can kind of ravage a community, an aged community, we need to be using, disinfectants that can disinfect that whole spectrum, not just the flu virus, but there's the H1N1 virus, there's the norovirus, there's so many viruses out there now. I can't even pronounce some of them, but they list them on the bottle. And that's where I do appreciate the Department of Health. They do the diligence of saying, okay, this chemical is approved for A, B, C, and D, but not E and F. So when they come in and audit us, like I know what I'm using and what we're using in the building is working on the biggest spectrum possible of viruses that could be living on your surfaces. And they're in their environment all the time. We can't get every nook and cranny, but now that everyone's back out in the public and we're not all locked down, like we're all touching surfaces and microphones and everything. So you've seen an uptick in illnesses. So we need to make sure we stick on, disinfectants that really work for this type of environment. I understand that, yes, going green or some type of green chemicals would be great, but they don't necessarily cover the amount of viruses to kill. And until they get to that point, with the technology of, using something green in that situation, then, we'll explore that a little bit more. But some people like vinegar and clean or, bleach and water and clean, but, bleach is an extremely harsh chemical that we don't want people to be handling or inhaling, for a lengthy period of time. So we use a disinfectant that's extremely well on viruses. We look at the kill time, the surface time that it needs to sit on that surface in order to disinfect that surface. How hazardous it is to the employees to be using it. Is it diluted? All that kind of stuff. So we use chemicals that are pre-diluted. So the machine dilutes it where it's not the old days where we're mixing stuff anymore. Until we get to a point with the green chemicals where we know it's going to be useful for all those viruses and everything we need to treat, then, we'll do that.
I often talk to Kerry because, as you know, in the sustainability committee, we have this task group about reusing things.
Yes, which is important.
And that task group, basically, the task force, I don't know, I call it a team or so. We are trying to help people be productive in disposing of the things that they don't really need. Right. And it's a challenge because, every one of us has probably 2, 3, 10 times more than what we need.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we are trying to do is to find a way for things that are not desired to be kept by the residents, that they find a positive destination, user destination. We call it the reuse and repair group.
Right.
And in that process, we are taking part on the process when people move from a larger apartment to a smaller apartment, or if a family has to, dispose of the things if somebody passes away and so on. So we have been doing that, and apparently with fairly good success.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, on one end, we are offering an opportunity for people to do some good while they are getting rid of stuff, instead of them going into the waste stream.
Instead of going into the landfill, right.
But the other aspect, which I think we spoke a couple of times, is if we don't do that, we don't give things away to people to reuse, these things get disposed. And there is a cost to Woodland Pond and to your team to do that.
Yes.
Can you just...
Yeah, I can elaborate on that. We spend a lot of money. I'm not going to give you the specifics, but we spend a lot of money just to throw stuff out here. There's a lot of garbage, just an independent living alone, not alone cottages as well. But, there's 32 garbage rooms here, and we need to collect that every week in order to maintain, your daily lives. So the things that you guys can think about when you're in your apartments is, one, if you are looking to downsize or get rid of things, it's the same concept as like the free stores we have for people, or reuse. All the free stores that we have for employees, all that stuff stays out of a landfill. They take it home and they make good use of something that doesn't have any use to you anymore. So just because it doesn't have use to you doesn't mean it can't be used by somebody else, and give them an opportunity to say, hey, this worked for me I've had it for 20 years and it's still sitting in the corner of my room and doing nothing. Where maybe a younger couple that might need something like that can get another 20 years out of that life, out of that, whatever the item is. So it's very similar to what you're doing. Is let's turn that over, instead of let's pay to send it to a landfill and let it sit there in the environment. We don't want that. We want to be able to, turn that stuff over and keep its use going, and just kind of pay it forward, in both of those areas, but it's amazing how a facility this size, we do generate a lot of garbage. But if you look at the free stores in the short period of time we've had the reuse kind of thing going on, I feel like we've made great strides, and your contribution is incredible as well. So I hope people recognize that, the time that you put into it as well, to get this stuff, to find new use for it, instead of it just going to a landfill and just rotting there for 20 years, where I'd rather see somebody get some use out of it.
Thanks for that. I know that sometimes people have questions and they need to find answers to issues. Yes. What things they should not ask you and your department?
There's water dripping, and my phone rings and says, or a fridge is not, producing ice or stuff like that. I get a lot of the maintenance questions, and Carrie will too, which is okay. We don't mind that. We all work in the same office, and we do see ourselves, despite Tom and my banter, we do help each other, get things accomplished in each other's department. And that's what we want. We want to be able to get the job done a little bit quicker, whether it's me helping somebody get a maintenance item done, or, vice versa. If maintenance says, hey, there's a mess here and we need it cleaned up, they'll call us and say, hey, we need to get this cleaned up. I don't really handle the maintenance issues, but those are things that should go to concierge and you need a work order. But if it's something that's needs quick addressing and you hear water running and water dripping and it's not supposed to be, those are things like somebody needs to get on the radio real quick because, some of you have experienced those situations, and we don't, those are the things that if it's something like that, I don't care who you call. You know what I mean? Like, but you need to get a hold of somebody right away. But there's little things that will come up. And I understand not everyone's going to know whose specific area it is, whether it's mine or Tom or, go to Carrie or Eric and, deal with them. I mean, in theory, yeah, the directors direct, and all those requests should go to the supervisors. You start with Carrie, and if Carrie doesn't know, she asks me, or if Eric doesn't know, he should ask Tom or whatever. But, all four of us work in the same office. So we're always communicating, and, we have April to coordinate all four of us to say, hey, get back here. I need you to take care of this for somebody.
So you just gained twice the amount of calls to your office right now.
Right. That's okay. That's all right. I mean, I'm fine with that as long as, the need is taken care of. That's all that matters.
Yeah. Well, there is a new initiative that I don't know, some of you maybe perhaps heard about. There is a team of residents volunteer to help people with technical issues, computer issues, phone, TV, and so on. And we are working out with Tyrell because some of those calls will go into the general pool of, I have a problem with ABCD. Right. Hopefully, this is going to be a third category. And we are working with Tyrell to
work on the technology. Organize it. Yeah, right. I mean, I have definitely gotten some phone calls on my TV's on the wrong input channel once in a while. So those things will happen. And, whether it's, I can't manage the technology, and hopefully we can cipher things in the right direction for you so it gets accomplished quicker, and that's all we're looking to do, to get it done as soon as possible. Even if it's you have to understand that there are levels of priority, whether it's life safety first, and then the little stuff will come a little bit later, so there has to be an understanding of how we tier things. We don't just randomly say, I want to do this today because I don't feel like doing this. We don't do that.
You mean my TV doesn't work? It's not a priority.
No.
Not a life-saving priority.
No.
Okay.
No. Not unless your wife is threatening you, then it becomes a life safety thing. But yeah, I mean, we do categorize that. If there's a safety issue, we want to take care of the safety stuff first.
So you seem to be pretty busy. But when you are not busy, what do you do for entertainment or something? Don't tell me about Tom.
No. For me, myself, being a single dad, my daughter is, as most of you know, my daughter is in the Air Force Reserves. She's away, and she now lives in Washington State. So, that's been an adjustment for me. But I have Moose, my golden retriever, who keeps me quite busy as he's only 2 years old. He thinks I'm a young guy, and I am not. He thinks, when we're going for walks, that I can run 30 miles an hour, and I cannot. He's got a lot of energy, which is it's a good thing for me, because he motivates me to do things that I probably wouldn't do on my own if I didn't have him. So my golden retriever and I, even though when my daughter does come home, like, she becomes the favorite again, all of a sudden. I don't know, even though I feed him, I pay to get him bathed and all that stuff. He is her first love, and it's great to see, even if it's only for a weekend. But, for me, that's about it. I'm a, big video gamer still. So that's what I spend my time on.
So are you ready to handle questions that
Absolutely.
I didn't tell you ahead of time?
Yeah. Are the answers on the back? Oh, we're using newspaper here. This is Monday's menu. Okay.
I'll give Trina first one because she had something from before.
I broke something the other day and I didn't know what to do with the big shards of glass. So I got a paper bag and I put them all in the paper bag and put them in the recycling, but I didn't know what to do.
That's absolutely fine. That's the only thing I would correct on that. When you have broken glass, one, you want to be careful how you pick it up yourself. Two, sweep it up, put it in. I always recommend a cardboard box as opposed to a paper bag, so you don't cut yourself, or whoever's handling it isn't going to cut themselves. When it goes into the recycling, it gets recycled. So you're in a cottage, so that stuff gets single streamed. The same thing is happening inside here on the back end. All that recycling goes into one container and it gets shipped out by waste management.
Because some of it's shards. Oh. Some of it is shards. I don't see how that can be recycled.
That's a question for like that's a question on the back end. Once it leaves the building here, I don't know what they do with it. I really can't answer that for you. They could tell me something, but I've heard, only 5% of everything recycled gets recycled. Of all the recycling, only 5%. So those are things that, need to get looked at on the back end that I have no control over. I just get it to point A.
Rob, I have a question about the Dallas Cowboys. What was their initial name?
They were the Dallas Texans originally, who moved to Kansas City. And then the Dallas Cowboys were the Dallas Cowboys in 1960 something.
Okay, well, what about the Dallas Stars and the Dallas Rangers?
Steers. Dallas Steers.
The Steers were a farm team, I believe. No, that one I don't know. Okay, so you're just making stuff up. The Dallas Stars are the hockey team. They're in the NHL. Right. I'm not a Dallas. I'm an avid Dallas Cowboys fan. I am not a Dallas Stars fan. I'm a New York Islanders fan. I was born on Long Island in Levittown, so I'm an Islanders fan. I'm a big Yankees fan, and when it comes to basketball, I'm a Lakers fan. So I cover every coast. I try and root for, I root for America's teams, not New York's teams.
I got a question concerning Trina's problem. If you had glass in a box, should it be marked glass?
You don't need to mark it, no.
But they don't know if it's paper or glass?
Doesn't matter. Nobody's looking after you put it in the container. No one's looking.
Right. How about paper, shredded paper?
Shredded paper can go in recycling as well.
Well, it can now.
Yeah, it never couldn't be.
Well, I only have plastic bags to put it in.
No, I don't want the plastic bags. No. You take the plastic bag, you dump it in, and then you take the bag back with you and reuse it the next time.
Oh, we dump it loose in there.
Huh? We just dump it loose, yes.
Holy cow.
Yes. So you're going to have to write your own policy on what you do in your own home. But yes, don't throw the plastic bag in with the recycling. We don't want that type of plastic.
So it's not mandatory to have a paper bag for chips.
If you want your shredding in a paper bag, that's fine.
But it's not mandatory to have that though.
No, there's no cops standing at the front door of the garbage rooms. So you guys kind of have to police it yourself. And you guys do police each other. And if you, like you said, if you're not sure about something, recycling, I just don't want the plastic bags from the old grocery shops. One, where are you getting them from? Because the grocery stores don't give them to you anymore. And you're probably getting them from the kitchen still on the takeout. Yeah. Go yell at them.
Okay. All right.
Or stop ordering takeout.
Third question is the electronics.
Just an answer to your question. Paper, plastic bags you can take back to the grocery store or the supermarket. They have a place to put
that I understand, but my question was shredded paper at one time. You couldn't use a plastic bag to dump it in the recycling bin.
If you're dumping it in the recycle, I don't know where that came from. All I said is I don't want the plastic bag in the recycling bin because that's not where it belongs.
But if I don't have a paper bag for it,
just dump it in.
Loose. Okay.
If you're going to leave it in the plastic bag and then throw it in the trash.
Okay.
You know what I mean? The
That's right.
garbage, in theory, should be plastic bagged up, preferably. We don't like loose garbage in the containers because they do get dumped around and thrown around, and the guys have to handle that. So yes, but the recycling should all be loose stuff for the most part.
But one last thing about the signs for everything where it goes except for the electronics, and there's still not a good way to handle that. If you want a hairdryer or somewhere else, throw it out.
Right. And my statement to that is I don't want any electronics in any garbage room.
And so where does it go?
You call me and I will direct you in the right direction because it depends on what you have. If it's something that can be reused, I'm calling Yakov. If it's something that can't be reused and it's a dead iPhone and you're not using it anymore and you've tried to get it to work and it's not, you're going to take it to Lowe's and where they will take it for free to recycle. There's also, what's the place in town, Yakov? The Computer Hut. Well, you can take stuff to Computer Hut in town. If it's a desktop or a laptop that you can't get to work or whatever it is, they'll take it for free and recycle it. But cameras and other things. So we don't want that left. And it still happens. No matter how many times I say, don't put electronics in the garbage rooms, it still winds up there. So don't let that happen.
Just for your information and everybody's information, many times people throw things that still have reusable value, not just recycling, reusable value. You would not imagine what people have asked. I'm just giving an example that I think I shared with you. Somebody had a CRT TV, old style TV, about this deep. It was left in the apartment. It was during the free store. Nobody in the staff took it. We come in with our team for what is left there, and we look at that. And one of the things that we do, we post it online if somebody wants it. Guess what? Within a few hours, I had 3 people interested in the CRT TV. Okay? So what is usable and what's not usable, it's not a rigid concept. It's flexible. So my suggestion, if you don't know, let me know. I will tell you, forget about this. Okay, bring it to your.
And to your note on signs, there was always a sign in every garbage room before we did this sign initiative of please don't place electronics in the garbage room. It was still happening anyway. Nobody reads the signs. I'm sorry. It just doesn't happen. I'd like to believe that it happens, but it doesn't. It doesn't matter whether I've taken it away because when it was there, nobody was following it anyway. I would wind up with the TVs and the cell phones and the electronics or a computer screen. Nobody's reading the signs, guys. And that's where, everyone has to take the initiative to say, you know what goes in here, what doesn't go in here. That's where we have to go. Go ahead, Wayne. Go ahead.
This is perhaps a little delicate. There's over 200 apartments and cottages. The odds are that there'll be a few hoarders. It's a topic that's sometimes been mentioned amongst people here, wondering if since there's some apartments where nobody ever has been in other than the cleaning ladies in general. What happens? Do the cleaning ladies go into apartments that perhaps are unhygienic or are where there's evidence of hoarding? The odds are it's going to happen, especially, in this population of us. So my question is there a policy about that?
Yes.
How about that topic?
Yeah, I believe, if you go through the handbook, which I'm sure you all have and have read thoroughly several times, you kind of pick and choose which ones stand out to you. But there is stuff in there that does address, safety and all that kind of stuff that handles, having a safe environment to come into. And what I tell people is, 1, can you get around safely in your apartment? Can the staff get around safely in your apartment? And 3, can EMS get around safely in your apartment, which is a big factor. And I get it. I think I think a lot of us attach a lot of emotional attachment to items. Coffee cup Yakov's had for years. You know, it was very special to him.
This one.
Right. No, but all of them, but I think that's what happens over time is people just develop that emotional attachment to a lot of things that are physical. When I've always tried to say less is more. We want to have the environment safe for you, safe for the staff, and safe for EMS coming in. If God forbid they ever have to have an emergency, we don't want to have to move furniture or move 10 boxes, excuse me, to get to you in the room. I mean, so those are things you have to think about in this community. And when you guys have those discussions with your friends at the dinner table, when you're trying to, discuss whether the Krispy Kreme is coming in here and the renovations or not, maybe, have those conversations. If you guys are the best support group for each other, you really are. And if you're struggling with something like that, maybe somebody else has gone through that. And I can tell like a lot of there are apartments where we do find that, where we have to find that. So if there is a situation, we'll talk to the resident, whether it's me or Sarah, we'll have that conversation. Hey, we need to do something here. So it's, and safe and say, okay, let's take some steps to move forward, whether it's, get a storage area or whatever we can do and say, we're going to get you out for a little while. We'll help you, throw the stuff out. Ask the housekeeper to get rid of stuff for you, take the things out that are just kind of sitting there, not doing anything, and I know we've had residents in the past have organizers come in to assist them. Yeah, you have to pay for the organizer, but that's also a feature that Sarah would have the information if you need that help. And what happens is you get to a point where it's overwhelming and you're like, I'm not doing anything about it now at this point because it's so overwhelming. Where do I start? Where do I begin? And that's where the organizer can come in and kind of help you with those things, or we can come in and orchestrate that if we need to. But there is communication with me and Sarah and Michelle, and what do we need to do, whether it's, okay, we're finding garbages are not getting picked up. You guys should all be taking your garbages out on a regular basis. Cottages are a little bit different because you're throwing it in the container in the garage or in the front, but in the building, that should be going out daily, especially if you have cats or animals inside and, that waste goes in the garbage. That needs to go out daily. I'm going to be honest, a lot of times, senses and smells, like kind of go by the wayside. But when we start to see that, we need to address that, and so we do have those conversations privately. And so I understand. Yes, and you're not wrong. It can be a problem. So we do want to address it and not let it go. But we rely on you to take that first step. It's very hard to get somebody to take that first step, but we try and just move you in that direction.
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, how often should we expect those trash rooms to be cleaned? And if we see there's a need for it, what should we do about it? And same question for the common porches.
The common porches, I'll start with that because that's always been a problem around this time of year. And usually we start when the weather gets warm. In the old days, we used to start at the end of March or the beginning of April. I feel like the planet is shifted one whole month where winter lasts somewhere in the first couple of weeks of April now. So we do that when the weather can give us a chance. On a day like this, can't really do much on those porches. And we'll assign staff, whether it's the annual crew where we have a couple of days and we don't have that annuals going on, we'll assign that crew to say, okay, let's do the porches from South Wing to North Wing. And that does take time. There's a lot of buildup. A lot of you know that it's like a wind tunnel down Cottage Street there where the wind just kind of blows and blows all the gunk right onto the porches because it screens. So you'll see a lot of buildup from the winter and the snow and all that stuff. So we will work on that as the weather gets nicer and work on those porches. And the first question?
It's the same question about the trash rooms.
Trash rooms, if you see something, just put in a work order. The frequency of the trash being picked up is weekly. But if we need that room like floor cleaned because for some reason trash winds up on the floor, I don't know who's doing that. I can't say. But I mean, staff are in there constantly throwing stuff out. Residents are in there constantly. But if you need something where somebody accidentally spilled something or a glass, if it's something that needs immediate address where somebody dropped a piece of glass and it needs to be swept up, you just call me or call Carrie and we'll take care of it right then. If it's something that, hey, this floor needs to be mopped or swept, then yeah, just put in a work order because we're only here during the day.
And then I have a question from the health center.
Okay.
I attend a lot of meetings there, and the constant refrain is I am missing clothes. We've tried to emphasize the labeling of clothes, and I mean, as much as we can, those of us that meet with them, but it's still a constant problem.
And I'm going to address that here and now. This is what I want. I don't want all the complaints waiting for you to go over and have that meeting with them. The complaint, if it doesn't come to me and it doesn't come to Carrie, I track every single complaint that comes in the health center when it comes to clothing. If Yakov is missing his socks, they call me and say, hey, I'm missing a pair of socks.
Yakov Sakov?
Oh, you're only missing one sock. Oh, okay.
Yakov Sakov?
Yes, yes. So when it comes to reporting that, you need to, when you have those meetings, or if you want me to come to that meeting, I do everything I can on the front end to say, okay, the clothes need to come to the front door. They stay there. They get labeled down in the laundry. We deliver them to the room. I'm going to say that probably happens less than 50% of the time. If I give everyone the procedure and they don't follow it, what am I to do? I can't force everyone to do what I've put in place to make it work the best we can. Because all I can say is the less hands that are involved in the process, the better. I know a lot of people and families are not always here or around. They'll order something on Amazon, it gets delivered to the room, and then a week later it's missing. Well, it never should have gone to the room, or if they hand it off to a nurse's aide and they put it in the stored utility room, it no longer has a label. It went out. If it came back, it should come back because all the bags are labeled to that specific room. We also audit what comes back into the building now, whether it's in the right bag or it's not in the right bag. And I can't tell you how much time that takes. And like I said, I'm tracking the complaints. In February, I think I had 2 or 3 complaints. But you tell me that's all I hear is just complaints. I can only go by what's told to me. I want names, I want numbers, I want items, I want descriptions, I want everything. I don't want a general statement that says I don't get my clothes back. That doesn't help anything. I need the specifics. I need you to go to the meeting or grab me to come to the next meeting and say, hey, can you come talk to me? So what I've also set up, and you can tell them, I don't know the date. It's at the end of this month. It might be next week. But Margaret, I can send you the date. And however you want to handle. I will have a laundry meeting in the health center. I used to do this monthly. I will meet with everyone, whether it's skilled, garden view, or assisted. It's mostly assisted that do the complaining because most garden view residents don't. But I have issues on skilled as well. I'll have a monthly meeting where they can come and visit, but they need to pick up the phone or they need to talk to whether it's social work or me or Carrie and say, this is the problem I'm having. All right. And I've had people say, go to those meetings, complain to you about a laundry item missing. I already know. I've already solved the problem. I've found but they will still go to the meeting, complained that it wasn't taken care of. I know that happens too. Or I've replaced the missing item if we couldn't find it, but I can't get everyone to follow the procedure. It's like the trash rooms around here. I can put up 1,000 signs, but it doesn't mean everyone's going to follow them. An old administrator told me a policy is only as good as the worst person following it. And I've always took that to heart because she was right. You know what I mean? I can't get everyone to follow the rules. I can't. All I can do is come to me, talk to me, find me. I'm here. Somebody has the ability. I have a radio. So if I do leave my desk, somebody can get a hold of me while I'm in this building. I don't take a lot of time off, even though Michelle says take time off. Those are things I want.
I have a two-parter.
Sure.
Would it be feasible to adapt the happy or not that we're using in the dining room to respond to the cleaning of the rooms? And would it be possible to hook that up to the applause system so that if they really do a bang up job, that you can from your own cell phone or the computer?
That's a good question. I'm not familiar with the software because I believe it's a dining type software, but I can follow up with Amy and say, hey, is there something when it comes to housekeeping and that technology, if that's available to us, and we can look into something like that.
So the second question is totally different. So we had a discussion the other night about whether or not dishwasher pod plastic is biodegradable or whether we should use something else to run in our dishwashers.
I mean,
that's a sustainability question. The pods that have the dishwasher detergent in them.
I use them and they work well because you're usually in that type of pod. Basically, we used to use that type of plastic in laundry back in the old days when I worked. Anytime you had infectious linen, it would go in that bag and that bag just melts away. And that goes into whatever it is. What that bag is made of, I don't know.
You don't care.
What that breaks down into, I don't know. I don't work for that company and I can't say.
If you are talking about the same pots that you put in the dishwasher that we use, I mean, the ones that you buy, it's not a plastic, it's a gel of some type and it gets dissolved. It dissolves. So there is no residue of plastic staying there.
That's not what you hear on the internet.
Well, not everything on it's hard to believe anything now on the internet, and what's true and what's not true. But, if you like them and your dishes are clean, that's all that matters because usually those pods have 3 different factors, your rinse agent, your cleaner, and everything else. So they work well. I'm going to keep using them.
Thank you. Never mind.
Any other questions, housekeeping related? Sure.
Coming.
One more. Just no, one more. Okay. It's the last one.
Yaakov, I wanted to ask you about the resident group of people who help with technology. Has that been formed yet?
It's already been happening, but we are going to scale it up. We are working on the process to also be able to connect it to the Works Hub, which is the reporting software that they use in maintenance. And I think housekeeping also uses Works Hub, no?
Yep.
Yeah. So we are working on implementing that electronically. There is right now 5 people in the group. We have 1, 2, 3 here. So we have a few people that are responding to those requests. It's going to be improved, hopefully, or smoothed up and maybe expanded. But if you have a question, don't hesitate. Just ask Tom, ask Bill, ask me, or put a request. And right now, when you put your request for a technical issue to the concierge, make a point in saying this is a technical issue. If you spoke to one of us already, make the concierge make a note about that. Okay.
Last one.
Okay, I recently was introduced to a young man who came over and worked on my computer. He's terrific. So I think we should have a place where we can give the names of somebody who is reasonably not expensive, but who really knows this stuff. He knew how to answer a few things that the person we presently employ didn't know how to do. And just one other thing, could you make a list available somewhere, somehow, of people to take our electronics to? You came up with a bunch of ideas that I thought were wonderful. I had no idea.
I mean, who came to your help with the computer? Somebody from the staff here? Somebody from the outside? Okay, there is a list, there is a resident forum on the website of Woodland Pond, and you can put anything that you want to share with the community, it will only be seen by people that use computers, so they get a notification that's been put there, and people can respond to you. That would be my suggestion. It's a separate thing. I don't want to take more time from this right now. We will have a session.
But I want to thank you all, for coming and having an audience and asking these questions, and whatever I can do, or you can do to spread the word and say, hey, if you have a question, just call Rob or call Carrie. That's the easiest thing we can do. You know what I mean? It's just, we'll try and answer the question the best that we can. If we don't know, we'll find out for you right away.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good. I appreciate the appreciation. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Want to give me more work? Yes. Right. I don't think you're busy enough.